That Rotha. Hey, shalom, everybody. What's up? Welcome back to part 10. What's up? Reading with SHILO. We out here with SHILO. Hey, this part 10, baby. This part 10. Part 10 of Africans in the Colonial Louisiana. We about to get ready to roll through chapter chapter 4. Chapter 4. We're gonna go. We're about to finish rolling through chapter 4 tonight. Let's get it out of the way. Since I'm up, let's get it out of the way. Ooh, and I like it. A shot from my glass when I pass, I'm looking oh so good. And Rotha Vandross. Can't go wrong with that Rotha. Oh, it's been a long day, man. It's been a long day. I got shit accomplished. So, hey, all praises for that. Hey, we here. We got breath to breathe. So that means we got all we need to succeed. It's time to push. Man, I ain't got my onions down. I got okra down the day before it rained. Oh, man, I'm feeling lovely. So when you come on in, though, hey, be respectful. Be respectful when you come on in. Like, comment, say something in the comment. I know the chat working. Say something in the chat, man. Shalom, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Tell your people, man. Shalom out here reading shit. We learning shit. We doing shit, man. We about to see what treasures we can find in Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall's sea of pages. The Africans in Colonial Louisiana. We're going to try to finish rolling through. We ain't going to try. We're going to finish rolling through chapter 4 tonight. It's probably going to be a short one. I don't think it's going to take us an hour to read the last about 5 pages. Last 5 or so pages. Yeah, 5 or so. But we got to get our... Man, my ankle been hurting, man. Shit. We got to get our routine down, work our body, work our mind, work our body, baby. That's what we got to do. We got to get our routine down before we read, before we finish off chapter 4, Bambara, the Bambara in Louisiana, the Bambara. Shalom, Penny. Shalom. Welcome. Welcome to Reading with SHALOM. We're going to read and see what we can see what it be with Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall. What has she discovered for us and put on pages? Hopefully something that can withstand the ages. We're about to read. We're about to finish reading up chapter 4. This is part 10. This is part 10 of Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall's book, Africans in Colonial Louisiana. This is part 10. We are in chapter 4. And we stopped last night, and we got about 6 or 7 pages left to finish up in chapter 4 to get to chapter 5. What up, Dean? What up? Shalom. So we're going to finish that off. We're going to get to chapter 5 tonight. We're going to get to chapter 5 tonight. Hey, worship who you want to worship, baby. Man, I'm tired, but I'm not. I'm tired, but I'm not. So before we get into finishing up chapter 4, let's get our little workout going right quick, man. I'm gonna pull 50, man. 50 of these little things with this medicine ball like I did last night, man. Yeah, I hope all y'all can get up and do something, man. Give me 25 to 50 things. Do something, man, so we can continue to build a better us. Build a better us. Build a better you. Man, get off your ass, lose some weight. That might be what you need to do. You never know when you need to move quick. And swing on a bit. Leo. Thank you, man. Thank you. Hey, that's what the business is. Appreciate it, Penny. Appreciate it. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. And right now we're about to do this routine. Let's get the routine going. I'm gonna work my body, work my mind, and work my body one more time. So we're gonna go ahead and do some flow work. Let's do some flow work. Oh, Lord. Flow work tonight. Oh, with a hurt ankle. Flow work with a hurt ankle. We're gonna give you about 50. About 50 of these things. We're gonna give you about 50 of these things. Oh man. 50 up, and then we're gonna work, then we're gonna read our book and finish off chapter 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, catch it. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It definitely feels easier tonight. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 8, 39, 40, 10 more, 41, 42, 43, 44, 5, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50 on them all. Flow exercise done. All right. I did my 50 and I hope he did plenty. All right. So since that's out the way, let's go ahead and get Miss MIDLO Hall's book read. We worked our body. Now let's work our mind. My mind's telling me no. But I'm going to read it. Chapter 4. We're going to finish off chapter 4. Man, it might take us 30 minutes, if that. So it's going to be a short one tonight. It's going to be a short one tonight. 30 minutes maybe of reading. Maybe not even 30 minutes. But the objective, which we're going to succeed at, is just to finish off chapter 4 tonight. And we'll come back tomorrow and start chapter 5. Chapter 5 is lengthy. Chapter 5 will be 119 through 156. Or 155, 119 through 155. So chapter 5 is going to be lengthy. It's definitely going to be about 3 sessions, 3 parts for chapter 5. But we're going to finish off chapter 4 tonight. That's the objective tonight. So we left off with, in chapter 4, Samba Bambara. It was a Samba Bambara conspiracy, and Samba Bambara was helping to try to, or at least they thought he was part of the conspiracy to start pretty much an insurrection or a little revolution where they were trying to massacre the French settlers who were down in Louisiana and fighting amongst the Natchez Indians and the Illinois, the Arkansas, and the Miami Indians. So, hey. So Samba Bambara is one of the Bambara African Bambara slaves, you could say slaves, that was brought over from Gollum. And they so said had brought him over from Gollum because he was starting shit down there with the slave uprising down there. He had threatened to slit some of the one of the captains of Line of Bull. He's threatened to massacre them. So they ended up sending him to Louisiana, but they couldn't find any paperwork on the boy. They couldn't find anything that was pretty much written in stone to say that he did these things. But the fact that he was in Louisiana, told them something. So Samba Bambara So let's get back into it. That's about where we left off. That's about where we left off yesterday. So the continuation of part of chapter 4, the Bambara in Louisiana. This is part 10, Africans in Colonial Louisiana by Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall. The alleged conspirators still refuse to talk, and in spite of their great suffering, they only said that they never thought of doing any harm to the French. Now, Duprat wrote a memoir about Samba's past and gave it to the judge, and the judge sent for Samba, threatening to burn him again if he did not confess. But Samba still refused, and the judge read the memoir to Samba, saying, "You see that I know your whole life, which has always been that of seditious one, and you have always sought to do harm and to incite others to do harm." Samba asked, "Who told you that?" In Louisiana Creole. Well, I ain't even gonna try it. I'm not gonna try it. Que sila qui dai sila a toi. What does it mean? What does it matter who told me that? The judge replied. Isn't it true? Samba continued to insist that the judge name the person who told him that. And finally, the judge said it was Lepage de Prats. Hey, said Samba, Monsieur Lepage is a devil who knows everything in Louisiana Creole. And the other accused conspirators were sent for, and they confessed. And though apparently they did not implicate anyone else, the woman who was hanged in the presence of the condemned men. And all 8 of the men were broken on the wheel. And another plot by the black slaves was reported a few months later, scheduled to take place during a midnight mass on Christmas of 1731. And it was to be simultaneously with the revolt at Belize. The plot was discovered by Tizzle Pillet, and he had been sitting down smoking behind the slave cabins when he heard the black Commodore going from cabin to cabin, telling the blacks not to sleep and to be ready when the clock struck. Now, this Commodore was arrested and brought to New Orleans. Now, the ordinator, Salmon, the ordinator, Salmon, who took control of the colony from the Company of the Indies in the name of the king, expressed doubt about the reality of this conspiracy on Christmas 1731. And we paid no attention to these rumors, which did not appear to be true, because the blacks are disarmed and the estates are so far apart that they could not make the smallest assembly without being noticed. And nevertheless, the riffraff of this city are alarmed to the point where all the little settlers are on guard and go to midnight mass armed with Don Quixote. He wrote Piri that the exaggerated fears of the population could encourage the Indians and the blacks to make such attempts, and the citizens were demanding to be armed and organized into the militia. But Salmon remained unimpressed. I think that in the greatest indication they can give of their cowardness, because if they see 4 blacks armed with sticks, they would flee before them. And I suppose that the weak garrison we have here would behave about the same. And even though, as we indicated, there are only about 80 to 100 Natchez left, and we have nothing to fear from them. And he added, however, that he had in fact underestimated the strength of the Natchez. And people living in the upper post reported that there was still 250 to 300 Natchez who had united with the Chickasaw. Now, the governor and the ordinator would be motivated to deny slave conspiracy, since the existence of such plots would imply negligence and their own inability to control the situation. And even more important, these officials tried hard not to alarm the settlers, who were already leaving the colony in large numbers. And officials were often quite cold-blooded, denying dangers in order to avoid panic among the colonists. I think they still do those type of things today. They deny dangers so they don't. They deny dangers so they can avoid panic among the colonists. I think they do that here in America still. They deny dangers in order to avoid panic among the colonists, while the fears of the colonists were often quite realistic, and colonists were denounced for cowardness when armed detachments of troops were themselves afraid. And it is clear that there was a large Bambara contingent among the Africans that constituted a language community and that was truly Bambara. A group of Bambara cooperated with the Natchez massacre of the French settlement and the Africans' refusal to go along with the Chickasaw chief who tried to convince them to seek refuge among the French indicates that they maintained their own agenda. And even after the French and their allies recaptured the Natchez settlement, building upon their tradition of alliances, the Bambara maintained ties with the Indian nations opposed to the French, even after they were retaken from the Natchez and the Choctaw. In the view of their experience with slave raiding in the Bambarana, the Bambara quite possibly did plan to enslave the other African nations after they defeated the French. And if the pattern of the Segu Bambara kingdoms were followed, many of their slave captors would become soldiers to expand their power and control. Now, on the other hand, the French officials pursued a conscious and deliberate policy of sowing enmity among their potential enemies and could very well have spread a false rumor to create antagonisms between Bambara and non-Bambara Africans. The Bambara slaves remained particularly defiant during the French colonial period. And if we accept Perry's estimate that all the Bambara slaves were involved in the Samba-Bambara conspiracy and that they numbered about 400, then about 15% of the adult African slaves in Louisiana in 1731 were Bambara. But among 27 slaves accused of crimes whose African nation was identified in judicial records during the French period, 18 were Bambara. And if in these cases, the slaves often identified their own nations, and the sampling shown in Table 5 is small but well distributed in time. So this Table 5. It gives the years, it gives what nations that they came from. It says Table 5, African nations of slaves accused of crimes and records of Superior Council of Louisiana. It gives the years from 1729 through 1752. And the Bambara has the most people who are accused of crimes with a total of 18. The Bambara, the Biafanda, the Fon, the Fulbi, the Samba, the Sango, and the Wolof. After the Bambara, the Samba was next with 3 people. So it's a big drop, but it's still 18, 3, 2, and everybody else had 1. Some of these court cases illustrate the defiant attitude among the Bambara brought to Louisiana, and Byron, a Bambara slave who arrived on La Aurora, had run away several times, and when he ran away again, his master fired several shots into the air, then aimed his gun at him and threatened to shoot him. Now, Byron grabbed the gun while his master was trying to have him shackled, and the gun broke during the struggle. Byron was brought before the court, and the Attorney General, Fleurieu, charged that his acts were a rebellion against his master, and all the more punishable from the fact that the number of blacks is increasing in this colony, and that one would not be in safety on the distant plantations. Samba Bambara was appointed interpreter in Byron's case and reported that the accused stated that he was only trying to prevent his master from shooting him and did not intend to attack his master with the gun. Byron was sentenced to be whipped at the foot of the gallows by the public executioner and warned not to run away again under threat of greater punishment and return to his master. The settler, Trudeau, living near New Orleans, complained in September 1729 that his Bambara slave, Malama, threatened to kill him and that several times he thought Malama would kill his wife without anyone being able to stop him. Now, Trudeau believed that Malama could never could very well carry out his threats. And the Bambara David ran away in 1729 because his master broke his finger. He admits that he helped kill the heifer in 1752, and a Bambara named Thomas was walking down the street in New Orleans with a white cholet linen handkerchief on his head, and he was stopped by a French woman who took the handkerchief, claiming that it came from the bundle of clothes that had been stolen from her. She brought him before the authorities, and under interrogation, he stated in good French, "No, sir. No, monsieur. No, sir. I have bought it from some unknown runaway negre," and he claimed that he had bought it in the streets for 6 escalins, 75 cents, outbidding a Canadian and 2 Bambara. Mamuru and Bayou, both in their 40s and neither baptized, ran away from M. de Grus, an officer in Illinois, and because he beat them a great deal and did not feed them. And they testified that their master made them work every day, even Sundays and feast days, and gave them neither food nor clothes nor time to sleep during the night, and mistreated them for no reason. When Mamuru was asked if he did not know that a slave was obliged to do what his master ordered, he answered that he knew it, but that when the hoop of the pail got loose and it fell into the well, he was given so many blows on his back and with the spade that he had not yet recovered. And they had left the Illinois country about a month earlier. They took only corn, a cauldron, and an axe from their master, and they had never ran away before, and nor did they steal. They ate only their provisions that they had taken from their master, and the man who arrested them saw that they had only a little corn in their pirogue, and they had no arms. And the boat they came in, which belonged to an Indian, they had found on the bank. And after they left Fort Assumption, Indians on the bank of the river called to them to land, but they refused to do so and continued that voyage. Now they were arrested between Homer and Bayou Gula, taken to Point Capi, and turned over to the M de Pontable. That sounds like a river down there. Bayou, oh, that's Catable. My bad. Bayou Catable. That's why I go fishing at, Bayou Catable. M de Potable. And they were headed to New Orleans to ask Madame Euphoria, their master's mother-in-law, to have them sold because their complaints were not listened to. And they were ordered to be sent to Madame Euphoria and then to their master so he could administer such correction as he should judge proper. Now, Perrault, a 45-year-old Bambara herdsman, was questioned about the murder of a French soldier in 1748, and though he was never accused of a crime. Now, Charlotte dit Kakuraka, a young Creole, had implicated Perrault to put off his own execution for the murder. And although Perrault testified that he did not speak French very well, he expressed himself quite clearly in his confrontation with Kakuraka, and that was no good. If you have to die, you must die alone, and you should not make people die with who had nothing to do with you. Now, Perrault said he had belonged to Bellicille for many years and since the time of the Natchez War, and he never ate during the day and only in the evening, which, though he did not so testify, was the custom of his country. And he never left the cattle alone because his master would punish him, and with the 4 stakes if he did. His only difficulty in the past had been when he was flogged for not stopping a cow from straying onto the neighbor's property. Now the cow had eaten the neighbor's rice, and Perrault had slaughtered the cow and shared the meat with his fellow slaves. His master, finding the meat in Perrault's kettle, had flogged him again, and Perrault testified that he and Kakura had never visited each other in their cabins, and that he was not a comrade of the Creoles, and he had given a meal to Kakuru, Kakakuru, Kakakurus, Kakarukus, there we go, Kakakuru's sister, when she had ran away from his master. But he denied that he had hidden her in his cabin. And Kakakuku, oh shit, man, this name is fucking me over. Kakaruku, there we go, Kakaruku. And Kakaruku testified that Perrault's words could not be trusted because he was a Bambara, and the Bambaras always lie. And this testimony clearly reflects tensions between Bambaras and the Creoles, at least Creoles who are not children of Bambara. And Indian slavery continued in Louisiana, though on a small scale, and matings between Africans and Indians took place both on and off their estates throughout the 18th century. And Africans and Indians continued to run away together. And documents surviving from the 1730s and 1740s record the departure of Indian and African slaves, who often left together to seek refuge among Indian tribes. And a plantation inventory list on African slave named Thomas, who ran away to the Choctaw. An Indian named Chickasaw, enticed away 2 adolescent African slave girls, and a network led by African Indian couples that encouraged slaves to escape and that led them to the Choctaw surface during King George's War. Now, the Western Choctaw, under the leadership of Red Shoe, sided with the British and introduced British trade goods to the traders into their tribes. And like Mamari Kulabali, Red Shoe was an outsider, relying upon his status as warrior to challenge the gerontocratic. What the hell is that? What is a gerontocratic? Gerontocratic officials, nobility among the Choctaw. Gerontocratic. Gerontocratic. Not aristocratic.
Here's the definition of aristocratic.
Gerontocratic. Gerontocracy. A gerontocracy is a form of rule in which an entity is ruled by leaders who are significantly older than most. Oh yeah, I read this before. Older than most of the adult population. And in many political structures, power within the ruling class accumulates. Let me see how you could pronounce it. Gerontocracy. Pronunciation.
I'm here at the Home Internet Awards. Guys,
Nobody cares.
Working with your best friend.
You make me feel safe, like
Shut your ass up. Tell me the word.
Gerontocratic.
I was right. Gerontocratic. The lower river settlements had become a haven of maroon raiders and fugitives from estates ranging from Point Capee to below the New Orleans. And settlers had been complaining of the theft of their cattle and provisions and poultry. And Governor Vaudreuil dispatched a detachment of French troops under Tisserand to disperse them. Now, the Choctaw fired on the French detachment as it followed the Chafonte River. Chafonte River. Chafonte. Let me see. Chafonte River. Defunct River. Chafonte River. TCHEFUNTE CTE. How do you pronounce it? Chifonta. Chifonta. I never heard of the Chifonta River. Where is it located? Let's see.
Steve's name. This is a word meaning something that relates to a culture in Louisiana. It's the name of a site and a river. Chifonta.
Chifonta.
Chifonta. That's right.
Chifonta River. Where is it located? Where is the Chifonta River located? Let's see where it's located. Where is the Chifonta River located in Louisiana? Chifonta. Chifonta River. Madisonville. By Madisonville. Where's Madisonville? Let me see a map. Down by New Orleans. Chifonta River is by New Orleans. It's off of the Fairview Riverside State Park. It's not far from that. Chifonta River Lighthouse. It's closer to Slidell. Between Baton Rouge and Slidell. By Covington. Covington, Mandeville, Madisonville. Around that area. The Chifonta River, searching for fugitive slaves, and one Swiss soldier was killed and 2 others were wounded. Now Tisserand told the Choctaw that their shots had not killed or wounded any of the French troops, and that they were hunting not the Choctaw fugitive, but red and black slaves. And the Choctaw chief, whom they had seen fire on the French, first replied that he had 9 fugitive slaves with him, 3 red and 6 blacks, who had crossed Lake Pontchartrain and Pirogues and had sought him out, and he would gladly return them if he was paid for them. And he denied that either he or his men fired on the French, claiming that it was the 3 red fugitive slaves who fired, and they were afraid of being taken by the French and had defended themselves. He said he was mortified by the contempt for the French that these fugitive slaves displayed, and he invited the officer to cross the river to speak to them. But the officer did not trust him and refused to go, or to meet him at the tar factory, where the chief promised to bring the fugitive slaves. Now Tisserand withdrew his troops, which further alarmed the settlers and inspired criticism and cowardice from Vaudreuil, and several of the fugitive slaves were finally captured and interrogated, and they had testified that they had been led to be the pro-British faction of the Choctaw and welcomed as potential allies against the French. Now Cocamina, an Indian slave of the Fox Nation who belonged to M. Dupac, had led his fellow escaped slaves to the Choctaw. Cocamina had a gun, 2 pistols, a sack of powder, a coat and a blanket, a little rice and salt, and an old sheet with which he intended to make a barrel, a sleeping frame covered by mosquito netting. And Cocamina boasted that when he aimed at the Frenchman, he would not miss unless his gun misfired, and that if the Choctaw came to attack the French, he would come with them. Now, Shizard, a black slave of Joseph Dubriel, and his companion, Angelique, an Indian slave of Goodall, had actively led escaped slaves to the Choctaw. I guess that was the Harriet Tubman. Cesar had a supply of balls and a pirogue he had taken from Dubriel, and they went on Lake Pontchartrain and took another pirogue at Carrier's Dock. Man, when I think about some of these places, I'm starting to keep stopping, but when I think about some of these places like Lake Pontchartrain, you know, and to think about, you know, you never stop to think about these things, about how, you know, like when you fish in these areas, you know, you never stop to think about how it was slaves. You see pirogues go through there all the time. Pirogues, boats, little kayaks and canoes and shit like that. But you never think, at least I have never thought about the slaves and the Indians running from the slave masters who may have used these waterways for escape routes. Now, I know that there's a place down the road from me in Washington, Louisiana, where they say it has a old boat. Now, I'm not true it is. I've just heard stories about it. It has it's a restaurant. It's like a boat restaurant. No, it's normally only pink people. It's normally only, you know, it's a normal, I guess only white folks really go there. I don't know, I've never been there. But they say that it was a landing for the slave boats. They say that, I don't know what river that is that passes through there, but it's a camp on one side of the river and a boat restaurant on the other side. And they say where the boat restaurant is, it's an old building. It's a very old building. And they say that used to be the stop. That used to be the stop for the slave boats. I'd have to look into it to see how true it is, though. They passed the Chafonta River, and on the other side went to the tar factory of M. Offrer, and Shizard, who knew the woods, had the slaves wait there 3 days for the Choctaw to arrive. The Choctaw finally saw their tracks and came after them and encouraged them to join them in attacking the French. And the recaptured slaves testified that their Choctaw hosts were well supplied with British trade goods and described the shirts, blankets, arms, and munitions that these Choctaws had. Only one of them was armed just with arrows, and the Choctaw told them that they had been promised all that they asked for in return for French scalps. Now, these escaped slaves were with the Choctaw when the detachment of French troops arrived, and the French troops tried to assure the Choctaw that they were not at war and that they were only searching for runaway slaves, and the Choctaw planned to wait until night when the French troops slept to surprise them. Now, the slaves testified that the Choctaw intended to attack the settlers at the German coast, and where there were fewer men. Excuse me. Now, two of the runaways, Joseph, a 25-year-old Chickasaw, and Francois, an 18-year-old Creole Negre, claimed that they ran away from the Choctaw and hid together after encountering each other in the woods. Now, Joseph had a horn and a half of powder, some balls, and 2 pistols that he had taken from M. de Mandeville. And this Chickasaw slave had run away with a Negress who had brought a pot full of rice with her. Man, you think about them running with this shit, a pot of rice. I can see the powder and the balls and the pistols, but a pot of rice. Hey, but I guess whatever you could do to get away, you know. They hunted deer and teal ducks before crossing the lake, and Joseph wanted to travel toward the setting sun to go to the Chickasaw Nation. He claimed that Cocamina had gotten him drunk and induced him to run away, and they went toward Bayou Saint John, or Saint Jean, where they took a pirogue. And then they went to the plantation of a Frenchman who had a canal that ran into the bayou that led to the lake. And Joseph testified that he had only his gun, his blanket, and a small iron pot. And he claimed that the Choctaw tried to induce him to kill a Frenchman, but he always pleaded that he was sick and he could not warn the French because he was closely watched. Now, Francois, a Creole Negre, testified that he ran away from his master because he had been sold to another master and did not want to go to him. And he remained behind his master's plantation. And when the Negre were to work, he went into the cabins to take provisions, and he got milk from their cows of the pasture, and he denied that he had killed any cattle, claiming that he had no gun. And 5 days earlier, he had met 5 other runaway Negres, and 3 of them from Point Capi, and one owned by Dubriel, and he did not know to whom the others belonged. And they were armed with guns and hatchets, and he could see that they lived well and killed many animals, and they had stolen sheep and chickens at the German coast. Now they told him that they came from M. Le Breton's plantation, where they fired on a cow, but they were discovered by an Indian and ran away. And Francois informed his interrogators that many slaves wished to desert to go to the English or elsewhere. And he had been told that it was the Choctaw, not runaway slaves, who had attacked the German coast. Now, this testimony reveals an underground railway involving the Western Choctaw, allies of the English, who were recruiting runaway slaves to fight against the French. And in this one group of 9 runaways, there were 2 African Indian couples, one Indian man and a black woman, another black man and an Indian woman. And formal alliances between African and Indian leaders ended by the early 1730s, after attempts to destroy French rule failed. Now, Indian leaders became increasingly dependent upon the colonial state for protection from British and the American encroachments as the 18th century advanced. Now, nevertheless, ties between blacks and Indians remained strong, and family ties among Africans and Indians radiated from the capital, the plantations, the woodlands, and the swamps into Indian villages as late as 1800s. A fugitive slave named Maria ran away with the Indian Gabriel, and black Indian mixtures designated Griff in Louisiana emerged as a distinctive, self-conscious group among the slaves. Whew. That took longer than I thought. I was stumbling a lot. But that was chapter 4. That was the end of chapter 4. Bambaras in Louisiana, the Samba-Bambara conspiracy. See, after reading this this chapter 4, I like that the last couple of books I read are like segues into the next book. There's segues into the next book to be read. So when speaking, especially like the last paragraph, when it talks about the family ties among the Africans and Indians radiated from the capital, the plantations, the woodlands, and the swamps into the Indian villages. And as late as the 1800s, the fugitive slave named Maria ran away with the Indian Gabriel. And black Indian mixtures, designated Griff in Louisiana, emerged as a distinctive conscious group among slaves, black Indian mixtures. Because that's the name of the next book that I'm going to read once I finish this one, The Black Indians. The Black Indians. Which I think is going to be definitely a good, it makes me wonder if it's going to say anything about the Black Indians in Louisiana or Mississippi, Arkansas, Florida. Which parts are they actually going to speak about? But, I like that the last couple of books parallel each other in some way, shape, or form. So that way, it's not an offset just yet. It's not an offset just yet. To like a whole different subject matter. You know, I really didn't want to keep reading about slaves, but it's not as much the slaves that I'm trying to read about. It's more so really the Indians. It's really about the Indians, but within the last books, or the indigenous people, but within the last books, even the Toussaint Louverture book, which it does mention the indigenous people. That's why Haiti was named Haiti, to give the name back to what the indigenous people had called it, which was Haiti. And I believe Haitians were most likely the name of the indigenous people that was already there. So even Louisiana, a lot of the names of some of the places, including where I'm from in Opelousas, were names of the indigenous people who were here, like the Opelousas Indians, Natchez, Arkansas, Illinois. These are names of the Indian nations that were already here, or the indigenous nations that were here. So I like that. I like that. That's good information. I like to learn those type of things. Definitely stuff that I think needs to be taught more and expounded upon more. We just got to keep pushing. We just got to keep pushing and unearthing the truths, the things that are dropped in the depths of the sea of pages, the things they tried to throw overboard, thinking nobody was gonna go drop down and dive down in them things like Jacques Cousteau and find the treasures. You know, those are some of the treasures. Learning those things that the Africans and the Indians had close ties, intermarrying, helped each other. They had underground railway freeing slaves and starting mutinies and uprisings and insurrections and revolts and massacres against the slave masters, which I think rightfully so. You know, because sometimes when they talk about it in these books, you know, they talk about it like it's a bad thing, like how dare these damn slaves revolt? You know, that's how they talk about it sometimes. Even in this, you know, it's kind of spoken, or it's kind of that's how I get it. That's how when I read it, that's how I hear it. Like, you know, like it was a bad thing. You know, the French was upset. The French was so upset that the slaves would revolt against them, you know, and leave the goodness of the slavery that they put them into. You know, but hey, they got to get their mind right. So, hey, but that was chapter 4, man. Chapter 4. It took me a little longer than I thought. We read about an hour. Shit, we read about that hour. We all baby. We succeeded. We succeeded before I fall asleep. Yes. Hey, man, that was chapter 4. This is part 10. This is part 10, the continuation and finishing of chapter 4 of Africans in Colonial Louisiana by Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall. We have reached chapter 5, which is called French New Orleans, Technology, Skills, Labor, Escape, and Treatment. Technology, Skills, Labor, Escape, Treatment. French New Orleans, which is a long chapter, which is going to be a pretty long, pretty lengthy chapter. But we're getting closer. We're moving closer to the end of the book. I want to say it has 11 chapters. $11 chapters and the conclusion. It's chapter 10. Excuse me. make sure. I'm trying to see. Yeah, 11 chapters in the conclusion. We're in chapter 5. We're almost halfway through. We're almost halfway through. Almost halfway through. At least from chapter wise. I think once we, being that chapter 5 is a pretty lengthy chapter, I think once we make it to chapter 6, we'll probably be halfway for sure. We'll probably be halfway for sure. Yeah, we'll probably be about halfway for sure. Because we're not going to read this. We're not going to read that part. So, yeah, we're almost halfway through the book. Yeah, once we get to chapter 6, we'll probably be halfway. So let's do our little workout, man. We're going to finish this out, man, because I'm getting tired. I am getting tired, man. Tired, but I'm kind of hungry. Might go cut me up some old plums and see what it is, man. But let's go ahead and get this workout out the way. Let's go ahead and get this flow exercise out the way, man, so we can finish up. Ooh, man, these little leg things right here with this medicine ball, man, they really do some work. They really do some work. If I advise you get your medicine ball. If you don't have your little medicine ball, I don't think this heavy enough. I need a heavy one. It's a 20-pounder, but I think it's good enough for you to start with. But eventually, I'm gonna need a heavier medicine ball. But it's almost like you're dribbling off your back. The dribbling off your back and crossing over from leg to leg 50 times. 100 times is better. Don't get me wrong. 100 times is better. And I should do 100 times in a row, which I do. I mean, I'm probably, because once I do this, I'm going to end up, before I go to sleep, I'm going to go do a little bit more workout. But 100 times would be better. But 50 times, you know, dribbling through the legs, definitely can feel it in your abs. Or I can feel it in mine, you know. So I definitely think it'll be a good ab exercise. I think it's definitely a good ab exercise. If you're trying to lose some of that weight around your gut, which is definitely what I'm trying to do. So get on your back and dribble through your legs with the medicine ball at least 50 times. You know, I would say 100 times is better. 100 times twice a day, maybe in the morning before you after you wake up. And in the nighttime before you go to bed, man, I think it'll do you a good workout. At least 200 times a day. Shit, if you could do it. Oh, shit. If you could do it more than that, it's going to be even better. Even better. Let me see. I'm going to get this flow exercise. Oh, Lordy. Oh, Lord. Oh, man, hold up. Oh, shit. Let's get it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I shouldn't have counted. 12, 13, 14, 15. 16, 17, 18. Oh, my nuts. 19, 20, 21. My giblets. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 2, 3, 34, 5, 6, 7, 8, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. Oh, shit. 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. 50 in this motherfucker. Oh, shit, 50. I did my 50. I did my 50. I feel it. I can feel it. Definitely worth more. As I build myself back up to doing more, I can see me doing more of them. I can see me doing more of them. I think that exercise is definitely a good addition. Definitely a good addition to my exercise routine. I can see how that thing will help. I can see. But hey, that's been Reading with Shiloh for tonight, man. We accomplished what we came to accomplish, which was finish off chapter 4. It took longer than I thought it was going to take, but we stayed within the hour time limit. All praise to the Most High for that, man. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Tell your people we out here reading shit, learning shit. We trying to grow some shit, build some shit, call some shit, do some shit. We trying to be better. Shit. Better than we was before. And that was part 10. Part 10 of Africans in Colonial, Louisiana by Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall. The sea of pages that has been laid before us, man, which we're going to take one day at a time, one part at a time, one session at a time, man. One chapter at a time, one page at a time, one paragraph at a time, one line at a time. Here a little and there a little until we seek and find the treasures that have been left behind. We can expose the lies and unearth the truths as we dive deep into the sea of pages and find them treasures. Pull them up. Let everybody see. Look what it is, baby. Look what they hid from us, baby. It's in there. Take a look. It's in a book. The Reading Rainbow. I can do anything. I used to be on that Reading Rainbow. Hey, now I'm on my own boat. Now I'm selling the sea of pages in my own pirate ship, man. Hey. I never thought I'd be selling the sea of pages like this, but hey, I'm out here. I'm out here on the sea of pages. Captain Longbeard, Captain Shallow. We out here, man. Shallow pirates. Shallow Hammer. Destroyer of worlds. We out here, man. One day at a time. And as long as you have breath to breathe, then you have everything you need to succeed. And all we got to do is succeed, baby. Succeed at little and work your way up to succeed in that big and the great things. And you can be great. And if not for yourself, be great for those that's coming after you, man. Be better for those that's coming after you. Hey, they'll thank you for it. And even if they don't thank you for it, their actions will show. Because when they soak up what you have taught them like a sponge, it's going to be ingrained in them. And they ain't even going to be trying to do the shit you showed them, but they're going to be doing the shit you showed them. Because that's all they know is better. Be better. And they're going to try to outdo you. So they're going to be better than you. And you don't want them, like even when you read the scriptures, a lot of times the children try to outdo the parents. They tried to outdo the son, tried to outdo the father. And if the father was wicked and evil, then he tried to outdo the wicked and evilness. Try to be right. Try to be better so your sons and your daughters could outdo your greatness. Ain't nothing wrong with them trying to be greater than you or better than you. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to strive for. Something good to strive for. That's definitely what I want my sons to be. Be better than me. Hey, get it earlier than me. Don't fall into the same traps I fell into, man. Let me be a better example for you, man, so you can do better. Be better. Make better decisions in your life. But hey, till next time, man, we'll come back with part 11 and start chapter 5 and part 11. Part 11 of Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall's book, man. Until then, man, shalom, everybody. I hope y'all have a wonderful night, man. This has been Reading with Shiloh. I'm out here. So, Shiloh out, man. Shalom. Who took my like?